This is section 813. We're going to take a look at reference and coterminal angles. So in this objective, we're going to find the reference angle of a rotation and find their coterminal angles. So the first is a coterminal angle. They're basically angles in standard position with the initial side on the positive x-axis, right? That's our standard position, and that have the same common, there's the buzzword, common terminal side. So in this visual picture, I have a set of coterminal angles. So 45 degrees is the same as negative 315 degrees, and it's the same as a positive 405 degrees. All three of these angles, negative 315, 45, and 405, they are all coterminal angles because they all have the same initial side and end at the same spot, which is the terminal side. That's a coterminal angle where it starts and ends at the same spot. So how do we find them? Well, the very simple way is we add or subtract 360. That's it. Or if it's in radians, we just add or subtract 2 pi. So let's find two coterminal angles for each. So I can add 360. So that's going to give me, what was that, 110 degrees? There's one, and then I can add 360 again. That's going to, so 470 and 110 degrees. Those are two coterminal angles because they start and end at the same spot. Now for 65 pi over 18, so if I wanted to find 2 pi in terms of 18ths, you have to find the common denominator, right? Because it's going to be easier that way. So multiply top and bottom by 18. So that's going to become 36 pi over 18. So if I add 36 pi over 18, that's going to give me my next coterminal angle. So 65, 36, so that's 101. So 101 pi over 18, that's going to be one of them. And then I could also subtract. So that's 19. So 19 pi over 18 is going to be my next coterminal angle. And it basically, like visually, if my angle was here, all I did was add or subtract 360 or add or subtract 2 pi to get to that same spot. Now the next is a reference angle. Now this takes a little bit more intuition to kind of figure it out. But a reference angle is the angle created from the terminal side to the x-axis. So if I was thinking terminal side, x-axis, there's my reference angle. 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 Now, essentially what we're going to have to do is use the idea of 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270, 360. Right? We're going to have to do little things like that and use that to add or subtract to find the missing value. But we are going to be using the reference angle a lot in pre-calculus because one cool thing about reference angles is they essentially represent similar values when it comes to measuring rotation. And that's going to be important to us. So find the reference angle. Well, the first thing we got to do is we got to draw it. So initial side, rotate. So that's about 170 degrees because I know that that would be 180 degrees. So my reference angle is going to be this. So it's that angle there. And this is what I mean by intuition, right? Well, I already know that this is 170 degrees. And to get all the way flat, it's going to be 180. So basically, in this instance, it's going to be the difference between the two. So 180 degrees minus 170 my reference angle is 10 degrees because those two have to add together to get me 180. It's kind of like the reason why we should know supplementary angles. Let's look at this next one. Okay, so it starts here. I know this much is 270, right? So I'm at least going to do that. So 270, do the subtraction. 4, that's going to be 6. So I have 64 degrees. Well, I know that that's 45. So if that's going to be 45, I have 19 left. Okay, well, that's almost half. So if I go half again, that's going to be about right. So rotate to there. There's my rotation. I have my reference angle, which is going to be this value right here, right? Because it's always the angle between the terminal side and the x-axis. Okay, so if that's my reference angle, if I know that this entire rotation was 334 degrees, well, to go all the way around, that's going to be 360. Well, 360 is what's left. So if I subtract them, it's going to find the angle in between. So 26 degrees. Because 26 degrees plus 334 gives me the 360, which would have been the full rotation. So what did we learn today? In today's lesson, we talked about coterminal angles and reference angles. Now, what is a coterminal angle? A coterminal angle is an angle that starts and stops at the same spot. So starts and stops. So that angle, those three different angles there would all be coterminal angles because they started, which was the positive x-axis, and ended, which would have been, I don't know, is that 45 or 50 degrees at the same spot. And a reference angle is an angle created from the terminal side and the x-axis. So no matter where my angle is, if I draw it here, so let's say that's my rotation, this right here, between the terminal side and the x-axis, that's going to be my reference angle. This does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.